Hello, my name is Keaton Bell, and today I will be presenting the movie Forrest Gump. Forrest Gump was released on July 6 of 1994. It stars Tom Hanks, who plays Forrest Gump, and Robin Wright as Jenny. The genre of the movie is comedy and drama. It is rated PG-13. Some iconic quotes from this movie is, "You have to do the best with what God gave you. Don't ever let anybody tell you that they're better than you." And the one that everybody knows, "Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get." This movie also contains one of the best soundtrack, including Free Bird by Lynyrd Skynyrd, Sweet Home Alabama, also by Lynyrd Skynyrd, Hound Dog by Elvis, and Go Your Own Way by Fleetwood Mac. The movie begins with Forrest Gump sitting on a sidewalk bench and telling the story of why he is there today. He is a slow-witted, but doesn't let that stop him from leading an extraordinary life. Forrest Gump graduates from college, where he played football at the University of Alabama. He then goes on to join the Army and fights in the Vietnam War, where he receives the Medal of Honor. He also was an amazing ping pong player while he was in the Army. He ends up shrimp boating for one of his friends, Bubba, who also was in the war with him in Vietnam. His lieutenant, who was in the Army with him, also shrimp boats with him. One important thing about this movie is that he is consistently chasing Jenny. Jenny is a free-spirited woman who has basically been all over the world through all of the generations. Historical references. Some important references that this movie makes is how Elvis came up with his dance to Hound Dog, which Forrest Gump showed him when he was living at his house with him and his mom. It also references the Vietnam War. John Lennon is also in this movie, who is on a broadcast with Forrest Gump. And it also references the anti-war march that happened, that Forrest Gump speaks at. Values. Some important values that this movie showed me is that don't ever give up on love. Forrest is consistently chasing Jenny, but never gives up on her. It also tells us that don't ever let somebody tell you that you aren't good enough. Forrest had many reasons to not go play at the University of Alabama or graduate from college or receive the Medal of Honor, but he showed us differently, and I think that's really inspiring to a lot of people. It also tells us to treat everybody equally. Throughout the whole movie, Forrest consistently treats everybody with the same respect. This movie also tells us to always do the right thing. He consistently shows us that he always will do the right thing no matter the circumstance. He went back to get 4 or 5 other people when his lieutenant told him not to, just to save the lives of multiple other people. Overall, I think that this movie really relates to Chapter 6 because of the camera angles, and it tells us why they are so important and how it made the movie the way that it is. For example, we see an over-the-shoulder shot when Forrest's mom is talking to the principal at Forrest's school. It really lets us see through Forrest's mom's eyes and what she's looking at and why she is so hell-bent on her son staying in the general education classroom. We also see a close-up shot when we only see Forrest's face when he is lined up with all the other Army people, and the main guy is yelling at them, we really get to see Forrest's emotions and what he's feeling. And I think that was really important in that situation. We also see a shallow focus shot when we see Elvis playing guitar in the background and Forrest is just dancing. It really makes us focus on how him dancing was so important to how Elvis got to the performing and how he did it. We also see a low angle shot when Forrest is in his interview with John Lennon and the other guy, and he comes out and sees Lieutenant Dan in the wheelchair. It kind of shows us that Lieutenant Dan was inferior in this situation, and you can feel it because, Lieutenant Dan lost his legs in the war, and he was angry at Forrest for saving him, so it really shows us that Lieutenant Dan, how his feeling was, because the angle of the camera was behind Lieutenant Dan and lower, so you could see how Lieutenant Dan was looking up to Forrest, and I think he was a little bit jealous in that aspect. So I think that they did a really good job of camera positioning. Overall, I really like this movie. I grew up watching it. I think that everybody should watch it once in their lives. I know everybody knows the quote, life is like a box of chocolates. So I think that everybody should watch this movie at least once in their life. Thank you very much.